The Big House. Blood in the Soil. Chapter 1. The Stain That Never Fades. The gates did not merely loom over Red Hollow Correctional Facility. They hung, like corpses from rusted gallows, their warped iron limbs twisted into sneering maws that dripped oxidized blood into the foul swamp mist. The prison wasn't built on land. It festered upon it, squatting deep in the Louisiana bayou like a necrotic tumor, pulsating with unsane veins of agony. Its concrete bones seeped a vicious red-black ichor, despite decades of repainting. The walls wept, always. The mist that surrounded Red Hollow was not fog, it was breath. Old breath. The final exhalations of the dam, drawn up from a soil that had long since turned septic with blood. Not metaphorical blood, actual blood, coagulated and fermented, saturating the earth to the depth of bone. The soil hissed when touched, as though rejecting the warmth of life. Chains hung from the rafters. The fences, the very air. They weren't relics. They were roots, grown deep and fused with the flesh of the condemned. Some still twitched. Visitors, few and ill-fated, would hear them clatter like skeletal wind chimes, like teeth in a blender of wind. The chains sang songs of old pain, and every gust of swamp breeze was a whisper shaped from madness. No one truly visited Red Hollow. They arrived unknowing and left hollow-eyed, if they left at all. The smell that clung to the place wasn't just rot. It was intention. The sweet perfume of maggot-ripe flesh, the chemical sting of scorched air and cooked marrow, and beneath it all, the copper perfume of a bloodline that refused to die. Red Hollow was a carnivore, its hunger ancient. Long before concrete devoured the bayou, this was the site of the grinning fields, a plantation etched into history with a whip and a branding iron. It had been named not for its beauty, but for the rictus grins carved into its victims' faces, their jaws broken and stitched to mimic delight during execution. The manor had been built not to live in, but to oversee, to witness. The soil drank deep, ravenous and never sated. Blood was its rain, bone its fertilizer. Bodies weren't buried. They were fed to the fields. Children still wailing had been swallowed whole by collapsing pits dug in loose loam. Women were nailed to sugarcane stalks, their insides exposed for birds and insects to feast upon. Men were flayed alive and staked upright, their flapping skin left to drum in the wind. One such man was Elias Washington Sr. He led a doomed rebellion, fueled not by hope, but hatred. Hope had long since been bled from their veins. He gathered weapons, taught silence, planned escape. But betrayal always blooms in captivity. The revolt was crushed within hours, and the overseers, 7 men with matching smiles and hollow hearts, declared a 3-day orgy of execution. They didn't kill Elias Sr.'s sister. They performed on her. 9 months pregnant, they whipped her belly until her skin flayed open, and her child clawed its way into the world mid-scream. The baby lived for 7 seconds. Its skull was reduced to a paste beneath the overseer's boot, the sound not a crack, but a squelch, wet and final. His brother was skinned alive, methodically. Skin stripped in ribbons. His muscles twitched and spasmed grotesquely with every switch of the blade. They forced the enslaved to watch and cheer, or face the same. Elias Sr.'s mother, They took turns, each act more creative. When they hanged her, the oak tree groaned with satisfaction, as if it too remembered every name whispered in agony beneath its branches. Elias Sr. was made to watch, tongue torn from his mouth with heated tongs, eyes clamped open with bent nails and wire. They chained him in the sun for weeks, where insects nested in his ears and birds plucked his lashes one by one. When he finally screamed again, it was from a mouth that should not have been able to. One night, the house burned. Flames touched the sky, screaming with the voices of the tormented. They say Elias crawled away, bleeding, skinless hands tearing through sugarcane as the inferno consumed his tormentors. Nuru found him in the blackest part of the swamp. A maroon, a conjure woman who whispered to things that didn't have names, things older than gods. She fed him blood and root, and bathed his wounds in water that whispered. They shared their bodies like rituals. She bore his child in the belly of the swamp, deep beneath the cypress roots where light was forbidden. Then they came for him. He let them. His final thought before being dragged back in chains: she is still free. The child is still safe. The prison that rose generations later bore a new name, but the same bones. Red Hollow was not built over the grinning fields. It was the grinning fields. Its soul had never left. Elijah Washington, great-great-grandson of the man who had crawled through fire and bled into the swamp, now stood at the gates. He knelt, touched the soil. It squelched beneath his palm like raw liver. Something moved beneath his touch. Something watching. When he rose, his hand was black with rot, and the smell was sugarcane and slaughter. He did not turn back. He could not. Something was waking. Something that had waited exactly for him.
Oh,